If you follow your passions, a lot of times the money will follow. But you have to be devoted to that passion, and you have to be willing to pay your dues, so to speak, to get to that point. The fact is, we only have one life. You have one opportunity to do with your life you want to do. You don't want to spend your life working in a job that I hate and that I'm just looking forward to the few hours that I have on the weekend.
Founder of the Virtual Instructor with 1 million subscribers on YouTube, he's helped master the art of drawing, going from making pennies a day to financial freedom. Matt Fussell.
Could you give like a 30-second, 1 minute intro on your background and kind of where you are?
Sure. I spent a good portion of my life being an art teacher and an artist. And during the time that I was an art teacher, I built a website called virtualinstructor.com that really grew beyond my wildest imagination and has become my full-time job, which has been my full-time job for, I guess, 13 or 14 years now, somewhere around there. Yeah, and I have a big YouTube channel. And that's pretty much the very, very short version of the story. It hasn't been a straight line like that, obviously. But that's basically the elevator breakdown of how I've gotten to where I am now.
Well, we'll get into the weeds a little bit and kind of talk about how you got there.
Yes.
I mean, going from teaching art in school to starting your website, your YouTube channel, I mean, that you're following your passion.
Right.
Did you get any kind of hold back from other people saying like, hey, I don't know if that's what you need?
Oh, absolutely. But let me back up. My parents were very supportive of me. It wasn't until I started working on the website that I got a lot of negative feedback from the people who cared for me, because I have a tendency to kind of get obsessed with something and then go in 100% into it. I was making videos for my students. I would make DVDs. And I would break out the DVD player and I'd play the DVD, and I called it the art garage because my wife and I lived in a very tiny house and the only room we had was in our one-car garage. So I would set up an easel out there and draw and paint in the frigid temperatures. And I was making these videos just for the benefit of my students. So I could do an oil painting demonstration, condense it down to about 15 minutes and show it to the students from start to finish instead of trying to stand up in the middle of the class and do an oil painting. That's not really feasible. And I would give the DVDs to my students. I would burn copies, and I had no intentions of it going anywhere other than to benefit my students. And then my sister, who was a web designer, she built a website for me, a portfolio website. And I kept bothering her to make changes, and I got tired of bothering her. And I said, I just need to learn how to do this. So I started teaching myself how to code. And that's when I built the website, the Virtual Instructor. And I started putting the videos that I made for students on the website. And I didn't really think anything of it until one day I came into my classroom, pull up the website, show a video, and my site had crashed because I had exceeded my quota.
Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, right, exactly. And then I learned that other people were using my website, other teachers, and I had no idea. So then I thought, well, this might be something that I can turn into something. And that's when I went 100% into it and really started focusing on that. But for the first 2 or 3 years, I was making maybe 25 cents, 30 cents a day. And a lot of people thought I had absolutely lost my mind. I kept going. I kept believing in what I was doing, and it paid off in the end. So everybody thought I was crazy when I quit my job.
Yeah.
Everybody. My parents, my in-laws. I think my wife supported me. I know my wife supported me, but that was a scary thing to do at the time, especially looking back now. That still seems like a scary thing to do, but it was the right decision. And sometimes you have to go against what other people tell you and you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah. I used to work at the bank on Truist, and right before I left, they offered me a banker position. And logically thinking, I was like, everyone else would say, "Oh, that's the right."
That's the
you're moving up, exactly.
Right.
And I decided to get into real estate, all commission.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm 24, 25. I was like, I'm fine, And I made decent money on my first sale. After that, 8 months without a pay, literally. And I was like, maybe I should have taken that, but I would always tell people that, and especially when I first got started, and they would say, "Oh, you need to go back to see if they still have the job available, so you can apply again."
Right.
And I was like, "No, I don't want to do that." I was like, I like doing what I'm doing now, and it's not making me money, but it could be really fruitful one day.
Right.
So, long story short, because I started real estate, I started this podcast. If I would have stayed at Truist, I would not have started it because it wouldn't have even came to my mind.
Right.
And I'm in a different position now. I mean, I don't do sales anymore, but I'm still in real estate. And it's, I'm glad that I didn't listen to some of those folks who said, hey, you need to go back to your record job.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that, great job, just not for me.
Sure.
Something else in store.
I totally get that.
So you have a desire to educate others. Where did that come from? I mean, did you always like to?
At Juliant, we're with you at every milestone, and your brightest dreams never have to fade. At Juliant, we help you shine. That's brighter banking. Juliant Federal Credit Union.
Well, both my parents were teachers at one time, and I had told myself I was never going to be a teacher because of the pay and because my parents did it. And I wanted to be something different from them. But I think that there's some things that are just ingrained in you, whether it's something that happens as you develop or if it's something you're born with. I'm not really sure. But I've always just enjoyed sharing information with other people and watching them grasp it and then move with it. I was a tennis player in high school, and I gave tennis lessons, and I watched that tennis player improve, and that was gratifying. It was only a few lessons, but it was great. And I also gave a few drum lessons. I'm a drummer, and I really enjoyed that too. And even when I went to college, I did not want to be a teacher. I wanted to, be an artist, to be an illustrator. And I had a great mentor at Charlotte who was super influential in my life. Wonderful lady. Her name was Dr. Sally Kovac. She took me under her wing. And, before my senior year ended, what was my senior year, she said, you would be a really incredible teacher. And I said, well, I don't know if I want to do that. She said, well, I really think you ought to just think about that. And I ended up going through getting my teacher certification along with my degree, which was a few extra education classes, student teaching, all that stuff. So I came out with teacher certification and actually went straight into a job mid-year. And I found that I absolutely love teaching. Teaching is one of the most wonderful things you can do in life because you actually get the opportunity to see how you influence people's lives. You don't always get to see that, but when you're teaching and you are with students, the same students, especially if you're fortunate to have them for 4 years, you really see their development as not only an artist in my case, but also as an individual. And that is so rewarding. And I still have students who I've had decades ago who will run into me, who will come up and talk to me. I had one not too long ago, a few months ago, come up to me in a restaurant. I think we were in a restaurant. And she started crying, talking about how much of an impact I had on her life. So there's nothing else you can do in life, I feel like, that you can impact people so consistently and still be rewarded in that way. Now, of course, the drawback to teaching is the pay is terrible. And in recent years, the pressure on teachers from administrators, parents, and the community is overwhelming for the amount of pay that teachers receive. And teaching is also a little bit dangerous, unfortunately, these days. So the profession of teaching has changed so dramatically. And unfortunately, it's not a place where teachers can really thrive to their fullest potential anymore, in my opinion. The teachers that are still out there teaching, they're doing it because of the love of that rewarding feeling that you get from being a teacher. It's definitely not for the pay.
So whether it's in teaching or other industries, if someone wants to follow and do what they love,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't be focused on the money.
That's true.
And I feel like a lot of people are,
Yeah.
wherever the industry is.
Right.
So do you think that's maybe why a lot of them fail? Because they're like, oh, I'm not making $20,000 right now from this, so let me just do something else.
Well, that's a good statement. I'm glad you brought that up. I encourage anybody to follow their passions and do what they love in life. That is something that I've always told people. And what happens usually is if you follow your passions, a lot of times the money will follow. But you have to be devoted to that passion, and you have to be willing to pay your dues, so to speak, to get to that point. But eventually things typically work out if people follow their passions. The fact is we only have one life. You have one opportunity to do with your life what you want to do. And you don't want to spend your life, I don't want to spend my life working in a job that I hate and that I'm just looking forward to the few hours that I have on the weekend or in the evening. While a lot of people who are living that life, I have to come home and think about the stresses of the work that they just left as they prepare to go back to work the next day. I'm fortunate to not have to live that life right now. And I feel like anybody, in whatever, if they're in that situation, they can get out of it and they can start doing the things that they love. Now, going back to the thing about teaching and the pay being so low, it's not just the pay. It's all the other things that are discouraging for teachers. And then when you look at the pay, it does not match up with all the things that you have to deal with as a teacher. As a teacher, I was threatened physically. I was attacked physically. There are so many things that teachers, there's not enough time in this podcast to go through all the things that teachers have to sacrifice and deal with. So while teaching is a passion for me, I am still teaching. And I've just figured out a way to make it work for me where I don't have to deal with all the other things that I had to deal with as a teacher. And now the pay is definitely a whole lot better than it was teaching in the classroom. So there are some situations where the pay is a factor. When you are spending all day teaching and pouring everything you've got into what you do, and you come home and you don't have enough money to buy groceries and you have to put it on a credit card to support your family, there's a problem there. That's not sustainable. So there are situations where you can follow your passion, and if you're not able to survive, then you do have to do some other things. So while I taught, I also worked 7 jobs.